Okay, this is part two of the narrative structure, and we're looking now at imagery. Has the author created a mental picture for you? So, one of the things that I was thinking about with imagery is the effect that so many books that I read, both for young adult and for adults, in the fiction character, the main character, if it's a female, has red hair. Sometimes even main characters, males, have red hair. And I think one of the reasons authors may choose to do this is it makes their character distinctive because red hair is not as common as the other hair colors in the world, really. But another reason may be that it helps us to create a mental picture. So, for whatever reason, authors are often choosing to give their characters red hair. But what else do we see? What words is the author using to create a mental image? And I think it's important for us to think about that, think about those words that are being used, as well as think about are we making a mental image in our as we're reading, or are we just reading the words on the page and going along and interpreting them, or are we really forming this mental image in our mind? So moving on to figurative language, we begin, we will not spend too much time here, but beginning with metaphors is where the author is comparing one thing to another thing, but they're not using the words like or as. So, for example, he was walking. Oh, I think keep wanting to say like he was a fox, and um, his movements were like, no, that's like what. So, but think about that as you read. So I'm just kind of trying to do this off the top of my head. A simile is much easier. And here the comparison is using the words like or as. So if you, one of the things that I always think about when I think about simile is um, the use of the list that went around the internet several years ago, and it had similes that were written by high school students. And one of the funniest ones was he was as tall as a 6 foot 4 inch tree. So that the instead of just thinking about the comparison of he was as tall as a tree, this young student got almost too literal there. We also have the hyperbole, which is exaggerated and thinking about, uh, I've never done that, or she always does that. She does that more than anyone else. Those kinds of things are examples of um, hyperbole, uh, or even something as simple as saying, "Oh, she raises her hand a million times every day." Um, Personification, thinking about how we are making non-human objects being given human characteristics. So um, thinking about ways that the river was running um, as as again going back to a simile, but as fast as the man, but oh, that's a really bad personification. Again, looking in your books, maybe you can find better examples than I have been able to give you here. Let's move on to allegory. Uh, so in an allegory, the characters or the plot or the setting are representative of a human trait or of another story. So one example could be that within that the whole story of Harry Potter could be an allegory for the dangers of trying to achieve racial purity. C.S. Lewis's Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe has often been seen as an allegory for the story of Jesus Christ. And it's almost like once you know that, then you you're able to see it in everything that you read. But if you don't know that ahead of time, sometimes you miss the allegory that the author is trying to convey. So what I want you to do, now it's your turn. You choose a children's book from your collection and look at the slides in this PowerPoint and choose 2 areas to respond to. For your book, you're going to answer the following question. You're going to tell the title of the slide you are using and tell how the book you have chosen narratively develops this trait. So I'm going to do an example for you. Okay, so for the example, I've chosen a graphic novel that's written for children maybe like 2nd through about 4th grade, and it's called The Glorkian Warrior Delivers a Pizza. This is a series of books by James Kokalka, and he writes about this character. The main character is the Glorkian warrior. So the first slide that I'm going to talk about is the one that has personification in it, the figurative language slide. So that's the first example I'm going to give from this book. And the Glorkian warrior is this character who has a pink head, 3 eyes, has 2 arms, 2 legs, and always carries a backpack on his back. And the backpack can talk and is actually a character in the story. So the backpack is often telling the Glorkian warrior what to do. So that would be an example, much better example than the ones that I was giving before, of personification. So the backpack becomes a character. Okay, so that would be my answer for one of the questions. And then my second one would be tone. So if you look at the slide that has tone, I'm going to talk about how the author develops tone in this story. And as I said, it's a graphic novel, and it's written for kids from about 2nd through 4th grade. The reading is quite simple, the text is quite simple, but the tone of this story is very sarcastic, and that's through the words, both the words and the action, but largely the words of the characters in here. So for example, there's this 2-page episode where the Glorkian warrior is driving his spaceship, and he has run into the ground on a new planet. And so the backpack says, maybe you should learn to drive. And the Glorkian warrior is totally oblivious to this sarcasm, and he just says, oh, what fun that would be. He says, everybody's fine, no problem. And the backpack says, fine, the supercar is totaled. And the Glorkian warrior says, it's not totaled, the steering wheel still works, see? So again, this use of sarcasm, both on the part of the backpack, who's the sidekick or minor character in the story, and on the part of the Glorkian warrior, and to a certain extent the sarcasm the Glorkian warrior is using is maybe a little bit, also could be considered a little bit oblivious. But that would be how you would answer the 2 questions on recap. First telling the slide that you're going to talk about, and then give an example from your book of how that is met. Okay, we'll talk to you later.